Well, how do you follow up, I guess, a rendition of Al's El Clasico? New York and London went head-to-head. Well, I'll tell you how Mr. Matt, Mr. X, Morello.
The real El Clasico.
That's right. The Florida Mayhem and the San Francisco Shock now go head-to-head. The Florida Mayhem, it's been said very publicly as the team is definitely building towards the future. They've made some big roster changes recently, but more importantly is the Shock have actually suffered a loss in this stage to the Houston Outlaws, man, of all teams.
But the Outlaws have been good this stage, so that, you lose that one in Game 5, you don't really feel too horrible about it. Looking back on it now, I mean, when it did happen, you were really worried. Both matches, week 1, go 3-2. They've been perfect ever since, though.
Yeah, and no slouches with their opponents either, of course. The Shanghai Dragons, we've seen, the Shock take a leaf out of that book, a bit more somber now being integrated into their lineup. With differing results, I think. We'll see how much they want to lean on that.
Can't beat them, join them. Right?
Yeah, it absolutely depends on the teams that they're going up against. They didn't really seem to need it against the Seoul Dynasty, who they conquered in a 4-0. So big turnaround for them. They're still looking very safe, not only for the Stage 3 playoffs, but also a shot at the overall season playoffs.
Oh yeah, I mean the San Francisco Shock, I think if you're a fan of them, nothing to worry about. I still think that you kind of look at the standings, maybe they're not like 1 and 2. Them and the Titans are still at that 1 and 2 spot. I think the hardest thing for the Shock will be for the overall season playoffs. So most likely the Titans not going to fall out of that top spot in the Pacific, so you're going to have to battle it out early on.
No, that's right, and they're pretty much close to locking down a guaranteed spot into those playoffs as it is. On the other side of the fence, should I say, though, is the Florida Mayhem making some big changes. Gargoyle, DPI, Karayan, and Rain have all been picked up. Now, I was actually out in the hallway talking to Scott earlier on, and DPI, Karayan, and Rain have just arrived today. They are actually here at the venue, but I was keeping my voice down a bit because they look very jet lagged. They're still getting their bearings, so unlikely we see those guys hit the stage today. I don't know if Gargoyle himself is actually here in the States yet. Visas and stuff need to be done. But speaking of bare hands, he says we're building for the future. We're setting up for a big 2020.
I think you give these guys a few days to kind of get acclimated, and then I think you throw them in right away. I think you've kind of explored enough with the current roster you have. And I think the fans, they want to see these new young players that have been picked up right away. So I think we'll see what happens. Maybe you see them here today, but I think it's definitely unlikely.
Yeah, a lot of, upgrades coming from that WGS armament side. We need to see how they'll gel. That will take some time. But now it's time to bring to the stage the big boys, the guys that are here to do some work and get themselves another stage playoff spot. It is the San Francisco Shock. Nothing less than dominance is acceptable for this team at this point now. They've conquered almost every opponent in the Overwatch League, and even dropping him a series earlier on this stage is not going to phase a team like the Shock because they are focused on the end game.
And I think in a match like this, do you kind of give some guys a rest? Like, if they go up 3-0, do you kind of work towards that 4-0? Because really for them, the whole season, you can't really make up ground with map count because of that Pacific Division. The Titans still do not have a loss. So you need the Titans to lose like 3 or 4 games to start to make some ground. You have to keep winning. It's like, do you give somebody like Smurf some run? Do we see Striker come in? They have Nevix on the roster as well. Like, when do those guys get some play? I think we've really seen it. Since they've gone to this 6, they haven't gone away from it.
Yeah, I don't think they're too bothered about trying to topple a completely unbeaten record at the top of the league. They need to get themselves in with a spot. The London Spitfire went undefeated, and they went on to take our first season. But now let's welcome to the stage their opponents. It's going to be the Florida Mayhem. Now, as they come out, let's get a look at least what our lineup is going to be today for the Mayhem. They've got the chill Vice vibes, I'm feeling it. BQB leading the way.
Those colors are the best. They have switched things up. It seems like
it's Hagapun.
Yep, Hagapun in the lineup, Saya playing Chris. So it doesn't really look like we've seen any changes yet from Florida.
No huge ones at this stage again. They want to test the metal, though, against a team like the Shock here. Let's see. We know that the Florida Mayhem, and BQB especially, is a prolific Sombra player. He hasn't been able to really ride high on statistics, I suppose, and that really is affected by the rest of his team's performance as well. If you're not doing well as a team, you're not going to look great on any of those roles, but I still look at this player as quite an important part of this strategy.
I think he's the player on this team that you look at right now, and you kind of build around him for the future. We know he's had success in the past. I expected Bait to give a little bit more of a positive impact on this team thus far. I think it kind of judgments, still out there on whether it's worked or not. I think him and Zephyr is the tank line. I think obviously it's an upgrade over SMT.
Yep.
I just don't know if it's something that's going to work long term.
Yeah, well, we've definitely raised questions, not only about Fate, of course, during his time with the Valiant, where it's very up and down, again, very team performance specific, but also Zephyr, his individual play. That's something you want to watch because he's going to be up against one of the best in the league. Here's your map set presented by Toyota. We're going to be starting with Nepal, moving on to Volskaya, Numbani, and then Gibraltar, man.
It's Nepal, a lot of opportunity to play some different DPS comps. We've seen a lot of damage dealers throughout the last week or so. It's really been pretty damage dealer heavy, even some May here on Nepal. The Shock, they like to just kind of keep it simple and just run, whether it's Reinhardt 3-3, Winston 3-3, or they run Sombra compositions. So we haven't really seen them experiment too much with different damage dealers.
This might be experimenting. You sure, Matt? Are you sure?
Well, I mean, for the Florida Mayhem, yes. It looks like...
You got to explain this to me, because I don't...
So they are not running a tank right now. They are running Fate on May. So, May, Junkrat, maybe you're trying to catch them. You saw where Fate was positioned with the May, trying to, push them to get the Shock to push a little bit forward and wall them off.
This is the apex of high health pool counter compositions. Fate wants to lock him down. He wants Hagapun and Zephyr with that high damage output to remove those tanks. But they can't really stand together on the point. That's the problem. When it comes to playing, in a pitched battle, 6v6, the Mayhem lack durability, but they've been able to pick off Super. They're playing from a lot of different angles here, and they've got rid of the Reinhardt from the shot.
I mean, you're running 5 DPS and Chris on the Mercy here for the Mayhem. And it's worked a little bit thus far, but you just don't know you don't really have the sustain to get on the point. The May is quite nice, right? May has a not a large HP pool, but she's pretty tanky in general.
Well,
we'll have attack visor here from Saya player.
That Winston bubble's broken.
When do you get control of it looks like maybe the attack visor is the key.
Winston bubble breaks, and then Saya player cleans up with a few kills. Now the Florida Mayhem can step onto the point, but they've lost 40%.
That was how they needed to figure out the Zephyr Fate tank line, is to just have them both play DPS.
This is bizarre. We've not seen this yet, I would say, all year.
Saya player with 6 final blows in that first fight, so...
I mean, you're putting him on a hit scan-based hero.
Quad tank here for the San Francisco Shock is Sinatra. I believe he gets May walled off. You have the Junkrat damage coming down from Hagapun. So very interesting strategy here from the Florida Mayhem to open things up. The more damage dealers you play, you can kind of spread out. You're getting poked from every which angle. What the Reinhardt-based composition from the Shock wants to do is just run at targets and take them out. But with the damage dealers, you can just kind of kite that so easily and get away. It's been very difficult for them to track anybody down.
There we go. It looks like we indeed have not seen this setup at all year. The Florida Mayhem living up to their name now. Let's see what they can do. It's going to be a wall. That's going to be pretty problematic for Super and co. Zigata's able to break through, though, but doesn't matter. Super won't be kept alive, even with the Transcendence in play. Faye will be jumped on, though, and that's what the Shock need to do. Strength in numbers and use that speed. The EMP up in the air, though, and Choikyoben is caught by it. It don't matter, though. Zephyr is still going to be taken down by Violet, and Sire player needs to resort to the tactical visor, but there's a Brigitte shield in his way. A Tracer also recalling away. Choikyoben being removed. Violet will wait behind that pillar, and the Shock are back in control.
Yeah, good changes for the Shock. So they bring out Tracer. Tracer very good at just 1v1 duels, being able to burst down some targets. Kind of struggles against the likes of a May, but they're going to switch off of this. There's lots of changes coming through for the Florida Mayhem. And then I like Super going over to Winston. I think you need to play Winston against those damage dealer heavy compositions. Florida, though, they change things up. They're going to go with a Reinhardt version of the triple tank, triple support. No Zenyatta, so you're going to have the Ana in play here. Instead of the Zen, you have that good sleep dart to potentially, well, they sleep Choikyoben here up on the high.
Not bad, that's a charge. Oh, okay, it was a whip shot to try and knock Fate up course, but it was still able to connect. Self-destruct for Choikyoben. He's going to be able to get back up, and that Bardic Grenade won't be followed up on. Pass bomb attempt. Zephyr doesn't even notice as it whistles over his right shoulder. Chris is removed. Rascal going down now, and the Florida Mayhem are in position to contest this somewhat. Sinatra needs to find a pick here, but his targets have become a lot tankier in the last minute or so. Primal Rage here for Super. This could be an issue for Florida big time. They've gone for the nano boost here. But a transcendence from Violet definitely helps the Shocker. Super just keeps swinging his fists over on the point. 99% now. The Mayhem need to retake. Yeah, they've done so, but they're down on players. The Shocker now going to come back in and collapse. Super stunned briefly. Violet Grenade is going to make that healing impossible, but it's a trade again. BQB's down. Sire players missing. And despite the Mayhem taking the point back, they only did it for a brief moment. They were behind in the fight. And that's why you see this here. It'll be the San Francisco Shock now as we head into overtime. The Wrecking Ball from BQB.
Yeah, and he gets on the Wrecking Ball just to make an attempt towards the point. You have Chris here as well.
Ooh.
Fate with the Shatter, he connects with one. Can he get to the point though to finish anything up? He can't.
Fate charging away, was probably hoping to connect with that one, and that's a big problem. The Florida Mayhem need their Reinhardt in position, but he's only just joined them and there's not enough time to touch the point. All right, Florida Mayhem made every team in the league very jealous for a brief time, but it didn't yield them a round win.
I thought Hagapun, when he switched over to the Ana there towards the end, he hit like three or four players with each biotic grenade, denying them all that healing. I mean, that was huge. He doesn't do that. He hits a nano boost on the Saya player as well to keep him alive on the point, even through rally. If he does not play that well on the Ana, it's not even that long where I think the Shock probably win that one pretty convincingly early on. The Ana was pretty good there from Hagapun.
We've seen moments from him, especially last season, earlier this season. On the Zenyatta, some fairly big plays, but even all those biotic grenades was not enough. The Shock ostensibly had a better composition, were taken by surprise, but it didn't last very long.
Yeah, you see both teams with Winston-based compositions here at the start. You can play, we really don't see as much Orisa anymore as we used to here on this point. We see a lot of the Winston, good mobility, you don't want to get knocked down the hole, you can dive into the back. And then also we do see damage dealers here. So the fight kind of goes over towards this mega health pack. The Shock have the advantage early on.
Yeah. Sinatra trying to get charged here. He's been sat on 30 for most of the fight, but he's not really been looked at, so he's been free to do damage. And there it is. Probably one of the biggest impacts I've seen from a low charge Zarya.
Yeah, it's quite weird. And Zarya scales so much with the extra damage of putting the bubbles, gaining the energy, turning the energy into damage that you usually don't see a 16 energy Zarya just pummeling people down. And it's a lot of poke damage that comes down, like Super just kind of tickling numerous targets, with a cleave. So he's going to probably jump up here to the high ground here, just kind of counter dive this.
Zephyr thought something was over towards his right there. All it was Super just sitting over on the point, so he doesn't really try and commit so much. Fate gets taken down to the Shock. Are very good at doing this, Matt. They repel at full dive or a huge engagement, but it definitely felt like Fate was quite a long way ahead of the rest of his team when he went for that jump in.
Yeah, but I think Fate has the right idea though, because Super is going to counter dive. I mean, let's say this, we're sitting here watching the game. We can kind of tell it's coming. It's not over there. You know where it's going to happen. You need to commit, because what they do is they just stop, and then they just get stuck in no man's land. Because now, the Shock, they kite it out, right? They run away. Super jumps in from the backside. He's there putting damage. So they're not putting damage on Super, and they're not putting damage on anybody in the front. Then they're just standing in open space. And it's an easy way to lose a fight.
They're going to lose the damage trades very hard. Super was hoping to try and knock someone off the edge of the map here by working out from that small corridor. No dice for him, but no worries either. The San Francisco Shock are in control, and Sinatra waiting for an opportunity to go here for a grab. All Fate was doing was keeping the point contested. Just jumping up and down. Going to be a grab coming out from the Florida Mayhem first here, but now is the counter grab from the San Francisco Shock. Looks a little bit better, especially with Twig Owen's bomb in the middle of it. That's two! Chris had faded down. The placement was good, the execution, but for the Shock, as good as it looked, it's just another day at the office. 87% to 0 and counting.
For the Shock, you just wait all of that out. Fate's using Primal Rage, you just back out. You can have Moth skate up high, Triobin can test the point. It's now just last-ditch attempt here for the Mayhem. Fate gets on it with Chris. They use Sound Barrier.
Oh no, Fate! Okay, he had the jump just in the nick of time, but they lost Chris. And that's just the first of their concerns. Zephyr doesn't last much longer, and now a Sound Barrier for the Shock just to make sure there's an insurance policy. BQB drops in, attempted pile driver, but not nearly enough damage. Way too much health and overshield on his opponents, and the San Francisco Shock, they be straight chilling. That will be it. Maybe, that'll do it. Pretty cut and dry from the San Francisco Shock, and all of no one surprised to see that so far. The Florida Mayhem, they try something a little bit different on that first round. They go for 5 DPS. I do love to see it, but you see why people don't play it all that frequently. It's map 2, just around the corner.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Into the iris.
Welcome to Assist of the Week, presented by State Farm. The Houston Outlaws had a difficult task against the dominant San Francisco Shock, but on map 1 stole a fight with Rockus's bionic grenade dropping right in the middle of the entire Shock team, giving the Outlaws a decisive fight.
So look at that, Sleep Dart, no Matrix. He walks up and bionic grenades the massive San Francisco Shock players. That is some great on play from Rockus.
Matt, we just saw the Florida Mayhem attempt to take the Shock by surprise with a very heavy DPS comp. Can you explain it to
I mean, they
us?
kind of did. I mean, they did take them by surprise. Look, that's a point where May is very effective. Not exactly convince you sub out your main tank for the May. I think we see a lot of teams. I think the Paris Eternal, specifically, when they put Danye on the May, they made good use of it there on that map. But it doesn't work out. I think they end up actually putting up a better fight using that than just matching them in the mirror. Like, I think when they match the Shock in the mirror, they're clearly at the disadvantage, as Volskaya Industries will be the next map in the pool. Opportunity to maybe run some more damage.
How's May on this map, Matt?
May not super effective on this map.
Would you say it's in fact not very effective?
I mean, look, May on point B on defense, like, all right. But point A, like, with how the chokes are, like, if you put a wall up on one, you can just go through the other ones.
Well, I mean, that's why she's used on the pool village, because she turns that point into a choke, as opposed to it being just enterable from two sides.
But I think, though, like, the whole thing with the damage dealers and, like, playing Sombra, it all kind of falls apart in the end if you can't play a respectable, and I want to say respectable up to the opponent's level, triple tank, triple support. You can't do that.
An honest, respectable comp.
And keep them honest on that. You're kind of in trouble, regardless of what you're able to do. Reinhardt on defense here from the Florida Mayhem. You do that because the Shock have shown
that they don't want to play Winston.
they don't
want to play DPS.
Dealer,
yeah,
right?
Gotcha. Yeah, we don't see it from them. They don't really go for Pharah, Sombra, Widow comps on this map. No. They just go for the old faithful. Early damage trades look pretty good for the Shock so far. Super needs to be a little bit careful though. With shield is low. Fate is still taken down though. Oh god. Zephyr's so low as well. He's got to get out. Break it down, Matt.
Like, you just can't give it up like that quick. Like, what? That's the last time we saw them get counter-dove on Nepal, right? That was kind of like an easy readable play, and they end up dying there first. That time, Super just kind of walks in. He lets himself get chunked down. They think they have a kill, and then he walks into it, and they have a bubble and a repair pack.
I think they,
like, Super
yeah, and they discorded Fate while he was swinging as well.
They just baited them into that. Like, you know, we've had this meta for a while now. Like, you kind of have to know how the order of operations works.
Yeah, watch how the Ryans try and bait the Zarya bubbles to be given. So Super gets a bubble there. Fate got discorded for just a moment. He got, as you see it, the discord's back on him after he got bubbled here. So Fate has no room to breathe. Super also struggling for the same reason. There it is, Transcendence. So Zephyr gets desuited now Graviton attempt here from the Florida Mayhem. Shot go for one as well. It's just Fake caught up in it, but that's enough. Trichobi was able to find a self-destruct kill off camera. Oh, that's so brutal. Well, Florida, you knew what you were walking into, really, didn't you?
We just went to break.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, we're gonna go to another one. But I mean, we're going there because the shock reel will take that so fast.
Listen, Matt.
They complete A and B, Mitch. 6 minutes and 28 on the clock.
Hey, thank God we're not paid by the hour. We'll see you on the other side of this.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Огонь по готовности!
Not a bad day's work for the Shock, Matt. They get 9 kills, but they're able to take 2 points. Work that out.
That's pretty effective. I think that was extremely effective. Tickets for Atlanta Reign, the homestand, almost sold out. Visit atlrain.com to get yours today. I believe I saw that they announced Golden Boy will be there. We all love Golden Boy.
He'll be in the
That'll
vicinity.
be fun.
He's the homie.
Golden Boy is the homie.
It's going to be a great
Can
event.
confirm.
It's going to be I mean, we had a great time in Dallas. We expect this to be just as good, if not even better.
I'm gonna tell you, I mean, like Fate gets picked off early, right? And then man, playing main tank, he was fought.
Did he?
I think he just fell off the side.
Yeah. Hashtag bring the mayhem.
All right, so I think like playing main tank in the Overwatch League is so hard right now, and I think especially as a side player, gets an early pick up there on a Rascal. We see what happened here from BQB's perspective.
Yeah, we'll get. Okay, I heard that guy in the crowd. We'll get you there. Trust me, we'll get you there. That's what happened. You wanted to see that.
Okay.
All right. Hey, look, we're back. It's
Look.
all good. Nothing happened.
But, and look, and we're back, and there's some positive stuff happening for the Mayhem, right? They're using the damage dealer comp. You know, they're having a Reinhardt on defense, so you kind of have an advantage here, per se. You get Hagapun back on the Ana, like which I said on Nepal, he was very effective. And you look like you're going to be able to take point A.
And look, the Shock, Matt, let's be honest, they play the Reinhardt in the 3-3. That is going to be susceptible to a DPS-based composition. Now, really, the Shock should have known this. Something tells me they thought they could have tried to play it and still get away with it.
Yeah, they play the Baptiste in that situation. That's kind of how they think they can get around that. Still does not work, is the Mayhem set a very good time, taking point A. Looks like they're going back to the spawn, though, and they are going to switch off of it. So they're going to go back. They're going to play the Sombra version.
They're such well-behaved lads.
Yeah. And look, yeah, and this will force the Shock to change. So the Shock were actually going to have Super play Winston, Sinatra play Sombra in this composition. Then they were going to have Rascal switch as well. They've decided now, since they see what's on the other side, to go back to this comp.
Well, the Mayhem have just passed below the Shock's time bank of 6:28. Okay, tentative steps onto the point right now, but they go straight from that nano boost. They want to pressure Super, but Immortality Field is immediately placed down, and the Shock disengage. Sire Play gets taken. How far forward was Sire Play?
He was all the way around. I believe he gets booped out of position there by Moth.
Moth is such a monster,
Moth
dude.
knocked Sire Player back into the San
Because the
Francisco...
Shock get disengaged and they get a free pick on the
Yeah,
brink
and
because
the
of their
Mayhem
Lucio.
wanted to push that because they were going to be able to create space with that nano boost onto Fate, and then you get him swinging, Super has to back up. Even with the immortality, you're still kind of worried. So BQB with an EMP here for this fight. Although I think EMP a little bit more effective on the defensive side of Volskaya than offense, because there's a lot of different areas where you can hide the supports.
BQB doesn't want to get hit by any sort of stray shots and be revealed again. Choosing to reveal himself, but the Mayhem push out the Shock back up on the left-hand side, the right, should I say. Trick Open was able to force BQB away himself, and well, that amplification matrix just for Rascal, by the way. No one else. It's going to give him extra healing and, of course, that damage.
It's one of the only times we've seen him use it for the healing. It's
Yep.
usually only used for the damage
And
that time.
But it's always just for him, make no mistake. Here's the push again on towards Super. They really want to get some of this Reinhardt. Clever from BQB goes for the Hackle and Immortality Field. Will it be enough with Hagapin already getting taken down? Troy Coben, he's putting the team when he's back in this fight. I mean, they're not very heavy in all fairness.
I do think like hacking the immortality feels such like an odd.
You could just kill it. You could kill it quicker than the animation to hack it.
When you hack it, now the hack now goes on the cooldown.
Yep.
And it's like, well, would you rather have just shot it and then tried to hack somebody else? Like I think you get way more value out of trying to hack somebody else. You did get rid of it pretty quick though.
BQB, he's a renaissance man, Matt. You know what I mean? He's trying to innovate. I don't know if that one's going to find its way into the playbook.
Another Amp Matrix coming up here for Rascal as well. So because of these early deaths for the Mayhem, you have not had a good opportunity to get off an EMP.
BQB. Moth knows he's there.
Yeah, Moth has detected it.
BQB is going to stay here for the time being. He wants to stop Moth. Oh, really? He pulls out there. When Moth was really just going to go for the boop, I guess he was worried about getting picked up, but that seems unlikely in that case. He translocates to a long way away as well. The place he put his device was quite far back from the point itself. Here's a Gravitemp. Notice that Super will choose to get caught inside that one. And look at that Immortality Field. That is so hard to remove. It's sitting just behind the metal railing in the choke itself. So Super just sits there and says, you cannot kill me.
So the Mayhem trade a Grav in their own Transcendence for Grav and Transcendence. You have the Amp Matrix already coming back up again for Rascal. I just think, man, with the way Moth plays, like you look at some of like his like time for ult earned, and it's like pretty high, like in a lot of these maps. It's just because he holds on to sound barrier for so long. Like you never see the Shock in a position where they're forced to like engage with sound barrier. In this case, you would do that because you get EMP'd, but he just plays it perfectly to where, like, as soon as that EMP comes down, he's going to be out there going to get that barrier and they're going to live.
Super just doubled over by the dishonesty of what just happened to him. Here's another Amp Matrix. This time it's going to be for the rest of the team. A Fire Strike here can kill 200 HP heroes. Oh, the EMP though. That was good timing.
Comes down.
BQB brings it down, but wasn't able to catch Moth with it. Super though will be respawning. The rest of the Shock are playing pretty conservatively right now, but they are. Oh, really? Hagapin gets caught by Sinatra off on the left-hand side. The Mayhem was supposed to be capturing the point. I cannot believe it. Sinatra just looks at the guy and he melts. And now he has turned in for spare parts, and Super is back. He doesn't even need to use a shatter here. Oh, you cannot lose your Zen like that.
Especially at Trance as well. That is tough.
So brutal. I mean, the Shock were the ones that were split, but perhaps Hagapin just didn't know where Fate would be pointing his shield. In cases like that, you need to use physical cover and not your Ryan shield.
And this one's a dead fight for the Mayhem as well, coming in. They're coming in where the other team has 5 ultimates out of their 6. You only have 3. And then how bad of it do you feel here if you're Florida? But you have to use like your Grab and then your Trance and Rally just to get them to use what? They'll probably use Amp Matrix, which you don't really feel that bad about. Their own Grab and then maybe their own Transcendence. Like you still have a big advantage in the Shock.
How cheaply can they win this fight? That is the question.
That is
Graviton
long
Surge,
race.
buy it out. That's
They Transcended and you have Chris dead, so
I mean, also, the Mayhem don't have a DB to eat that up anyway, so you can use your Graviton Surge much safer than as if you had to walk up and do it closely and put yourself at risk of getting burst. That's
like,
that's a weakness of this Sompa comp.
And I think like you have to use the Transcendence there because you're scared of the follow-up, but at the same time, you can see how far away everybody else is there for the Shock, that there is no intent to follow that up.
Amp Matrix, does that boost the low tick damage of the Graviton Surge?
Huh, that's interesting.
Maybe that's why they tried to set it up. I mean, because it went up at the same time.
I don't know if it, remember like versus team used to to affect ultimates, and then it didn't. I'm not sure if it actually affects the ultimate.
Oh, we had that whole discussion that day about it, yeah. All right, BQB is an EMP. It has to be a good one here. Lets it go. Catches 5 players, but Violet's still having it the Transcendence. No matter who BQB gets, he still seems to leave a support unhindered by that ultimate. Doesn't seem to matter though. The follow-up with the Graviton Surge was good. Sinatra down, Super now in the back corner. There is an Immortality field though. Someone has to go over the top and deal with that one. No, it times out. The Florida Mayhem still having to push through, and they get the map done, but it's not pretty. They got a bit of time to work with, and it's going to have to be enough, Matt. Simple as that. 6 minutes, and was it 28 seconds for San Francisco with their time bank, and well, they got an extension. We'll see you for extra innings in just a moment. Florida Mayhem managed to finish Volskaya with under a minute left, so they get boosted up to 1 minute. The San Francisco Shock will also be given an equal amount of extra time. So now they're up to almost 7 minutes in their time bank. Normally that's impossible. Normally you can't finish them out that fast in general because they got the boost, it's inflated.
Yep.
It's,
I am actually just shocked that they're coming out with Reinhardt on D. I mean, this is also because they only have a minute. If you lose this, you don't have to change your comp, so you can hold on to those ultimates for point B. And look, I mean, with how fast you are, you feel pretty confident you'd be able to take A and 1 tick on B, let's say, if you hold in almost 7 minutes.
It's absurd, really. An embarrassment of riches for the Shock. The Mayhem, they are the paupers in this parable. See now how they work this DPS comp. Again, the Shock still go with the Ryan setup here, so they are obviously confident that there's a process that they can sort of shrug off a lot of this damage, still play together, still be able to contest the point. And what they do is they back away inside that room. Super needs to be careful. Respect Cussive Blast. You'll notice that there is the Zyra and the Diva, Sinatra and Trikobin that are playing in the bunker. This is how the Shock will try and shrug off a lot of this AoE damage, but it's not working. Choice taking a lot of damage. Rascal just got hacked too.
But the Shock, no, they just need one fight. Rascal getting close to that Ant Matrix. Nice biotic running there from Agapun on a Sinatra and Choyobin. Choyobin's getting low, Super steps onto the point.
But it's sleeping right now. That could hurt things. Zephyr doesn't really worry too much about their mortality field. Ant Matrix now for Rascal. What can be done? He was a little bit too slow to keep Super up, but Cyplay has fallen to Violet across the map. Fate now getting pressured down. Extra damage for Rascal. Zephyr takes the disguise, but Fate's been taken down by Sinatra here. What's Zephyr going to do now with that Hakapin? He gets nano boosted, but that's about it. EMP, that's not going to be enough from BQB. It comes a little bit too late, and there it is, the Mayhem. Run headfirst into the brick wall that is the Shock.
They are able to get a tick of permanent progress. I believe they did get, up to 63% there to capture point A. But the Shock still with so much time, 6 minutes and 55 seconds in the time bank. Volskaya looking very good. I mean, this would have to be a historic hold here from Florida to be able to withstand the pressure that the Shock are going to bring. And just having that close spawn, the advantage on the offensive side here.
Oh, also the fact that the Shock just play with utter disrespect. Mayhem are...
It's going to be tough.
I would say the odds of it are 0. The odds of them holding it are 0. We'll see what the Shock can do.
Well, you come out with the Reinhardt base comp if you're Florida. Challenge them to play some damage dealers. Maybe they're not able to do so. And you can get a tremendous hold. Is it likely? Do I want to tell you it's going to happen?
Did you just say maybe the Shock aren't able to play damage dealers?
Well, I said maybe just not able to coordinate it.
I've seen from practicing his dude.
Oh yeah, I mean he's
I also saw him ruin Defran in a Widow 1v1 last night.
He's been doing like DPS only damage dealer only streams like every night. It's not very much. So
he's gone late, man.
But like, yeah, maybe you challenge. Maybe they can't coordinate enough. But I mean, I think you're going to be fine here if you're the Shock.
What can the Mayhem do against such intense hunger and desire to win? That's what the Shock have. They've had it for quite some time. There's been a fire burning in the belly.
And Doomfist is great here. I mean, Doomfist is the exact, like, all you need is like one pickoff here. Doomfist can come in with a rocket punch, just insta-kill a support. We used to see
Matter of
Doofus play all the time.
No! It's gonna be a Hagapun, he's airborne, he gets bubble. Sinatra's gonna rocket punch back, but Moth in the chaos is taken down. No mercy now for the shot. In both senses of the word. Chris, though, is traded out, and maybe the shot just linger a little bit here. They have good positioning, they have plenty of space now to operate in. Violet looking for them frags. Zaya's a
Firing
bubble there.
rockets in.
Oh gosh. Oh, this is not good, is it?
That's all you need, though. Just one pick off, and now you can get, the Brigittas down. Now you lose your Zenyatta. A hack on your D.Va player as well. As Zephyr getting back here, it's just all falling apart.
Oh, Faye, which way do you turn? Left or right? A trickle becomes a flood, and that's how the picks work. Fate's going to be forced away from the point now. Zephyr is dealt with by Super. Choihoven doesn't want to get lasered down, but that's not going to work. BQB, his bubble is taken down, but he's able to avoid getting knocked up by Sinatra. It's Choihoven, though, brought back to life, and it is the Mayhem brought to their knees. 2-0 already. And the San Francisco Shock just looks solid. They're not going to let an obstacle like this prevent them from getting what they want, and that is big W's. Nothing but the wins, and the Florida Mayhem definitely have a lot to think about into the break to try and even stay in step with the juggernauts that are the Shock.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, now connecting 99% of Overwatch League fans. Catch your league on America's network, T-Mobile.
Огонь по готовности! Vamos esculachar!
No shock here. It's been all San Francisco in this one. They have the train rolling fast, up 2-0 over the Florida Mayhem at the half. What's up, everybody? Malik, Zoe, and Sideshow back again for another halftime. Guys, this match, San Francisco doing what they do best, steamrolling the competition, but Florida was able to put some points on the board, which I found to be quite impressive.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm still just laughing about BQB running off the map. What was he doing? How did he just straight
Honestly,
up fall
if I
off?
were up against San Francisco Shock, that would be probably my only way out. I'm like, get them out of here.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's saving face, really. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was impressed-ish with the Mayhem. I love that we saw something else from them, not necessarily working. However, that quintuple DPS, is that one that's 5? Yeah, I think that's the English word.
Yep, straight out of
it.
Straight out of
Thank you. No, I thought this was a really interesting take, and at least it did push San Francisco Shock to make some changes in their approach to the team fight. So overall, not the worst.
Yeah, Fate's one of the best main players I've ever seen on main tank. He's really redefining the meta, I think, in that aspect. I mean, it's Mayhem, right? They've been struggling for a while. They know that their roster's rebuilding. they're just going in here trying to see what they can make work. They're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. San Francisco Shock are not the kind of team that you can normally do that to, so credit to them.
Remember when you blinked twice and then all of a sudden San Francisco Shock had point A and point B?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that too.
That's
I
a
looked down, I
ridiculous
tried to write down the name of the map on my notebook, and then all of a sudden it was almost over.
Volskaya is a pretty long name, to be fair.
It really is.
Right, it's a long
Industries, you gotta write it all out.
Exactly, I wrote it all out to be proper. But Mayhem themselves actually had a pretty good attack as well.
Yeah,
Initially,
I think
point A at least.
something that Mayhem have been able to do over the course of this whole season has been to sync up their ults and actually get occasionally a fight together.
Yeah.
But you got to do more than that if you're in the Overwatch League. And hopefully in the coming weeks, we will see more from the Florida Mayhem with their new players.
Right. They got a lot of roster adjusting to do, and we're going to see that. And meanwhile, the San Francisco Shock, they are stacked with superstars. In fact, we asked the fans who they think is the team's most valuable player. So let's take a look at the results and see what people were saying. Who do you think is the MVP? Right now, in the lead, Sinatra at 52%, followed by Super at 31%, Troy Hopin coming in at 10%, and then others at 7%. Let's see some more answers. I think we got some more answers here. All right. So Rocket says J1, of course, Sinatra.
Yeah. He was most people's pick, I think, mid-season MVP.
His USA teammate.
That's an easy pick.
All right. And Sevia says Moth by a long shot. Actual genius, and gets slept on. He does get slept on a lot. Moth contributes a lot to his team.
I definitely agree. I think both Moth and Choyobin are like silent carries, underlooked. They're incredibly good players, and they contribute a lot to this team that kind of goes a little bit unseen.
All right. Let's see what this one. Tempo says definitely Rascal by a long shot. Dude is insane at almost any hero he picks up, plus he's pretty big brain.
Definitely the best Batiste in the world right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, well, Zoe, what do you think?
I mean, my personal, I have to agree with the majority here. It has to be Sinatra, and I'm always backing my picks up with numbers, obviously, and Sinatra is leading the charge if we're looking overall league-wide. He's currently leading with 3 different metrics on that Zarya. He is #1 in time to ultimate earned, he's #1 in hero damage, and he's also #1 in average energy upkeep. That is basically the 3 most important metrics you can be looked at as a Zarya, and for him to just coming in, and I mean, honestly, at the very beginning, it looked a little bit shaky. He wasn't really used to that Zarya. In a very short amount of time, all of a sudden, he just climbed the ladder, and now he's the best.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very impressive.
It kind of is weird. Early on, we were talking about him getting caught out because he was playing a bit too aggro, and now he's just perfect across the board. I want to defend Choyobin, though, who was only 10% of people thought that he was an MVP candidate for this team. The guy's incredibly good. He is genuinely one of the stars of this team, and I don't think that people pay enough attention to him. But, I mean, we'll go by the numbers as well, Zoe. He's currently tied with Fury for #1 in most ults negated, and he's second in most ults negated per 10 minutes as well. The guy has huge play after huge play, and he's just always active on this role. He gets a lot out of the D.Va, and it's one of these situations where it's like he's up there with the Janus and the Furies and the Dakos of the world, but because D.Va doesn't have the most flashy plays, I don't think he gets talked about enough. But honestly, keep your eyes on Troy. He's huge.
I agree, man. It's such a hard pick to pick one. It's hard. If I had to pick one, I'll go with Super, though, because, you know,
it's pretty good.
He said I look good today when I saw him in the hallway, so I'm automatically picking him.
You are so easily bribed.
Yeah, very easily bribed, man. Just tell me I look good, I'll give you anything. Oh, honorable mention to Krusty, the coach. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit too. Krusty's a mastermind behind the scenes, and he does his
9K
thing.
and Junkbuck as well. His assistant coach is honestly fantastic. Could go into a head
So we're
coaching
just all
position
agreeing that the San Francisco Shock as a whole.
The whole organization. What's up, Brett?
Everyone's a winner.
Everybody. All right. Well, we got Nabani coming up for map 3. Does the Florida Mayhem, do they find any momentum on this map? Is this the map that favors them? No?
No. I mean, Florida were able to really push Paris there, but because Paris had a terrible composition, I think the Shock are just going to come out here. And
dang. So you make that Florida Mayhem fan in the front row pretty angry. All right. All right. Well, guys, we got another half to go. We're getting ready to get back into this thing right now. It is San Francisco up 2-0. We're going to see if the Mayhem can get any momentum moving forward in just a bit. Stay tuned.
And when it comes to in-game communication, if they say some words in Korean, I understand like some of them that have to do with the enemy or some abilities or something like that.
처음부터 게임 많이 하고 서로 이제 얘기도 이제 영어로 많이 하려고 하다 보니까 언제부턴가 이제 좀 자연스럽게 친해지게 된 것 같아요. 이미 많이 친해요.
Огонь по готовности.
My ultimate is charging.
Well, it's a tale of two halves of the ladder here in the Overwatch League. And I tell you what, the San Francisco Shock are definitely from the greener side of this particular pasture.
Yeah.
The Mayhem have a lot of rebuilding to do, a lot of work to do, and after this match, definitely a lot of homework to do to go back. But I'm pretty sure things like not running off the map into the water are things that are easy fixed.
I think, though, this is a game that's probably kind of spiraled out of control for Florida. They probably had an idea this is not a favorable matchup for them going up against the Shock, who, the Shock from start to finish this year has been in your top two, this far. It's a very tough one for Florida, especially when you have new players coming in, and the players currently are like, oh, what are those guys coming in for? Are they coming to play now? Like, what's going on? Like, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty going on with Florida.
I mean, we'll get to this in a sec, actually. We'll have a look at some substitutions here. Is Byram comes in now for Hagapun, so we've obviously seen a bit of Byram already.
They've done this, I know, over the last few games, where they'll sub them out. I actually thought Hagapun was quite good in the first two maps. I think on Nepal, he had a lot of nice biotic grenades on the Ana. I know the previous map on Volskaya, I thought he had some nice plays. I mean, the one he gets picked off, but I think it's kind of tough with the way they're playing. I thought Hagapun's been quite well. So
for San Francisco, their chances, obviously, of clinching top spot in the Pacific Division for this stage, probably not going to happen, considering that they share that same division with the Vancouver Titans. So at this stage, obviously it's about chalking up those wins, but they can, they can try some stuff. They can get aggressive. Maybe
we're lucky the Shock aren't in the Atlantic, right?
Oh well. Well,
top seed.
In all fairness, NYXL have had a stage 3, so we will see how that one shapes out. I'm hoping for NYXL, London, San Francisco, and Vancouver to make that top 4. That would be nice. But we'll see if that's how it goes down. It's going to be the Shock out of the gates here with a Reinhardt-based composition on Numbani.
And as soon as they see the Mayhem playing this, they're not going to be scared. I mean,
this is what they want.
Yeah,
it's everything they want.
Speed boost comes through.
Yes.
Super gets a bubble. Sinatra bubbles at the same time. So now they get charged up. Now they'll go to the low ground, play point.
No tricks, no dishonesty. That's just what the Shock want. Byram, though, coming in off the bench, puts one straight between Violet's eyes. No, Zenyatta, what do you do now after the Shock? Apparently you just accept the fight's over and try and get out there. Great opener from Byram. Very, very, very strong.
It's a lot of extra damage that you're able to put down, keeping the Zen alive, or having your Zen alive. I think you'll see the same thing from the Shock. on their offense. You know, I don't think if you come through here on the high ground, like Sinatra's going to bubble himself in super, so they did the previous time with the speed boost. He was at like 90 charge when they dropped. I mean, you cannot let him get that charged up.
Here we go again.
Yep,
Shock
bubble.
Now, yeah, I was interested to see what Chris would try and do there with the boops. He wasn't able to boop anyone off in the end, and now Fate has to drop. That's because Sire player had fallen down. Now the Shock have high ground. They should have perfect positioning here. Transcendence from Byram. He got that one pretty early. Super went for the shadow. Didn't find too much. Now a rally from Rascal. It's going to help the Shock weather a lot of this damage. Violet then goes for a later Transcendence. Sinatra. Yeah, it's time for the grab, and that looks like that'll get them over the line, and it'll get the job done. The Mayhem don't find anything with their grab. BQB looking sad.
But why use Transcendence to engage there? You had nobody low, use the Trans to engage, they just back out.
Was it reactionary to the Shatter? Maybe Byram thought that...
Yeah, I mean, it happens right after Super uses Shatter, but the Shatter gets nobody. I mean, you have to have a little bit of faith in Fate to be able to block the Shatter, right?
Well, you'd want to hope so. Again, is it communication? Is Byram, for whatever reason, feeling like I have to... Oh, that's
a nice move, yeah. Really
hey, Chris!
Well
done.
Yeah.
Super just adjusting himself in his seat, rolling up the sleeves, scratching the head. A couple moments here just to reorient himself. The Shock.
I would love to look back on that and if you have Rally if you're Florida, right? I mean, Rally, Saya player can, you know, whip shot back, stun, you need to follow through. Now they use Sound Barrier. Sound Barrier use here behind the Shock as well.
Super, super focused down. BQB finding him there, and there's no shield to protect Rascal, who I believe was stunned anyway by Saya player, made sure that he was subjected to the blast. Florida looking much better here. The San Francisco Shock going to go for a grab in the late part of the fight here. Fate's around the corner. He's in trouble though. Not much to protect him there, and you've got to have your guard up, even against the Shock that's down at half strength.
And I think Overwatch is like you see there where the Shock are able to make something happen towards the end of the fight. I think it's a little bit easier to play when you're the aggressive team and you're the one who's like dictating the pace. Because that forces like your team on the defense. Like you come in on an offense, like how the Florida Mayhem did from the defensive side, right? They get two holds there. They're the aggressive team. They're using the ultimates, pushing them back. They're getting the first pick off. It's like, I feel like when you have to play defensive and always back up and like kind of think and adjust on the fly, that's where like the biggest difference between the higher tier teams and the lower tier teams is. And grab here used by Florida, Transcendence used by the Shock to keep everybody up.
Yeah, Super now going to push forward here. Shield's a little bit low though, and he still respects the Discord orb that was placed on him instantly by Byram. But the rest of his team are able to push forward. The rally from Rascal helping him, actually. The Transcendence was definitely defensive, but the rally was offensive. The charge forward there from Super. We'll get that second checkpoint, 4 minutes and 3 seconds on the clock. I also think, Matt, one of the things that really separates these teams is if you are not dictating the flow, right? If you are on the defense or you're not in a position where you can initiate a fight, it's about making a decision, making the right decision first time every time when it comes to responding with ultimates or other abilities.
Yeah, I think it's way harder on the defensive side of things to be able to adjust and be like you have to all be on the same page, and there has to be like an insane level of trust with teammates there. Like the perfect thing is like the use of that Transcendence, right? Like you know, at the beginning when the Shatter comes down from Super, he basically shatters right into Fate's shield. And
you have to read the game the same way.
Yes.
Your coach has to imprint his philosophy on you guys so much so that you're doing things instinctively, and you can always predict what your teammate's going to do. That takes ages. That's what the Shock have though. That and a team culture that's been built over such a long period of time. Fate, he tried, but that shield ended up looking more like a parasol, but he needs more than Mary Poppins to save him right now. Here comes the Graviton Surge. It's going to be Sound Barrier for the Florida Mayhem, but the Shock have 1-2, and they will not be stopped. Pushing forward here, Dracoven a little bit out of position, but there's the Shatter. Sire player is knocked to the ground. Super will clean him up. Fate and Super go now for a mutual charge. And Zephyr trying to stay out of the payload, but BQB will be cut down. Chris has a Discord orb and won't last much longer either. The San Francisco Shock blaze through the map.
The Mayhem put together a decent defense at the beginning of point B, but on A, and then from really once the Shock took B all the way to C, defense was non-existent. See Florida's offense after this.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Vamos esculachar! Nerf this. Огонь по готовности. Огонь по готовности. Pass into the iris. Огонь по готовности.
And Barney shaping up also to be pretty quick and fair. The Shock don't have the hugest time bank in the history of this map, but it's pretty darn good. Mayhem were able to snarl them up a couple times. Hey, if you like what you see here, why don't you come down and join us? Today, I ate fried chicken flavored ice cream, and I'm sat here talking about video games. It's a pretty cool vibe down here, so get your tickets and come hang out. Even Matt's here. It's hard to spot, but he's here.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
We got it good here. All the fans do as well. Nah, it's always
an easy time, man. The only the Mayhem don't have it easy, I'll be honest, but that's what you get when you play against the Shock, man.
All right, so some damage dealers coming out here for Florida on their offense. This has seemed to work on a lot of their offenses. As the Shock, they like to stay with the Reinhardt at the beginning of these offensive sets. The advantage for keeping the Reinhardt over Winston is that they don't have to change anything. Once the game switches over and both teams go into the mirror,
so it's almost
they
like
have the advantage in their own.
Are they almost accepting that they will eventually lose this point A, right? It's not a full hold setup.
I mean, your intent is obviously not to lose it. It is still possible to hold. It's just way harder.
Well, that's one piece taken out. Byram with a switch over towards the Tracer. It's been said he has a decent hero pool on him. What San Francisco Shock do without a Reinhardt here? They probably need to get back to the point first and foremost. You see a lot of them playing in those lower levels here. They need to at least have some sort of token of resistance. Byram able to recall back out here. Sinatra taken down by BQB, and Trickover will just try and stall things out. Sire play though, taken down by Violet here. Super returning on the Wrecking Ball, and with the Shock spawn proximity, they have a chance to actually contest this properly.
I mean, Violet's still here, Rascal as well, Choyobin's still alive. Pulse Mob goes...
Oh, they're piecing out, for real!
They do have some ults coming into the next fight, though. Sinatra will play Tracer now, and then Super on the Wrecking Ball, which, interesting you go Wrecking Ball here over Winston Wrecking Ball. Really kind of like useless once he's hacked. So we'll see Super probably goes back and switches over to Winston. You probably only went Wrecking Ball to, get back to the point rather quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, so he'll go over to Reinhardt, interesting. So wants to continue to play the Reinhardt into this.
It's great.
Oh, well, they actually go Ryan Zarya here, Florida, so.
I mean, this is if they saw through this, it's a fantastic switch. Might not save them against EMP though. That's the problem. As good as the composition looks, it requires the use of abilities. And that's what EMP is going to take away from you. Super over the edge of the map there. He did take Zephyr with him at the very least, but there it is. The Mayhem get that point A. But this next part of the map is why the Shock play Reinhardt in the 3-3 in the first place. Super, even though that was a short fight, he's already halfway to his next Earth chapter.
Yeah, Sinatra switches over and he'll play Zarya now, so this is what the Shock want. Now they go up against the Sombra of BQB. This really comes down for Florida. If BQB can farm that EMP quickly and connect with the quality targets with it. That time he did, and you're able to take game point A.
Look at Rascal playing up on the high ground. He's looking for a stun deep in the back line here, leading with Rally, but Super took a ton of damage. Although so is Fate though. Discord orbs on him. It looks like there's not a Zarya bubble. So the Mayhem back right up. They know that Reinhardt will be done in a couple hits. Super also had the same issue.
Just look how much space the rally buys them, though. I mean, the Sombra now, you know, outside of the enemy lines, like was back over towards the Florida side of the map. That's where you want to see Sombra if you're a Shock.
Yeah, it lets the Shock establish on this corner.
Yeah.
I think even just as much space was enabled by the fact that Violet sticks a Discord on Fate.
And that as well as flying around the corner with the Shatter is getting perfectly timed Transcendence, though, from Violet.
It's almost like you saw that one coming. Dracobin will be hacked as he backs away, but the Shock are at least able to get out. Super, though, might have missed the memo. He wants to hang around and fight. Is there going to be enough healing to keep this Reinhardt up here? Fate, Shatter, it's big! Dracobin and Sinatra both knocked to the ground, and although Mott did get a sound barrier, they still lose the Brig and the Rhine here. 2 minutes 50. And yeah, the Shock are in trouble now. Getting staggered, Dracobin will be struggling here. At least in this part of the map, he can jump off the edge and head back to spawn.
It's really rare to see Moth burn a sound barrier like that, where Chris will have that sound barrier coming into this next fight pretty much. You have Transcendence and Rally.
I think he thought they could win the fight still.
Yeah, it's BQB building up towards another EMP. Can the shot touch? Super makes it to the point.
Oh, that is a second grab. That is unforgivable. I mean, yeah. Fate gets 2 though. Might still be salvageable here. Choyova's gonna get desuited. Oh man. It is the real getaway play in the Moth. Trying to get across the payload, and Choyova will be taken down.
And an EMP from BQB saves that. I mean, if you have a grab like that, and you know, you win a fight, I mean, something else has to happen. As BQB hits a big EMP, you have to burn 2 of the support ults, but it's worth it at that moment in time.
It's those mistakes that really cost you in the long term. I mean, having either EMP or grab here would have made a huge difference. Now you let the Shock pull it up.
It's an extra fight win. Getting value at grab there is a fight win here at this corner. And it's, you know, shaves a minute off of a clock.
Well, it potentially actually allows them to finish the map with more time back. That would be remarkable in and of itself. Shatter, Byron Messiah player both knocked down. Super follows up immediately on the knockdown. Zenyatta with a fire strike to complete the kill. And Dracobin there, he probably fired off the self-destruct before he realized it wouldn't really be necessary to win that fight.
Yeah, and you end up using, Shatter, self-destruct rallies, so Florida don't really invest anything. You take a look at Super Shatter here. He just comes flying around the corner, and so we see a lot of Reinhardt dudes trying to like force the Reinhardt into a position where you see players on the outside of the shield, and then the quick turn. The cart was being moved there by BQB for just a second, forces the shot back. So that's Sombra forcing them to come all the way back, play defense on the cart.
Fate playing that low ground, and thought Sinatra might want to stay up on the high ground a little longer, but the Shock playing it fairly safe. That EMP, another big one, but Violet still gets the Transcendence. Can Super still be kept alive despite this? The answer is yes, but Sinatra is knocked down. Fate, though, no chance to follow up. Sound barrier had to come maybe a second prior. He could have charged into that, and there it is. It's the big boy Shatter coming in from Super. Sinatra also hits that grab, and that fight is over. Byram as well, having gone for that Transcendence, and later in the piece has lost that. Oh, I mean, he had to hit Transcendence, then realized the fight was already over.
You know, it's Fate's doing a nice job of, like, landing stuns on the Shatters. Like, Super's at 7 Shatter stuns. Fate's at 6. The difference is that every player that Super has shattered has resulted in an elimination, has resulted in a kill. Fate, out of the 6 players stunned, you've only gotten 1 elimination off of the back of it. So you're getting, you know, about the same players stunned, but it's just way more value for the shot.
What about by the Florida Mayhem? They actually dropped down pretty quickly here. They preempt the Shock pushing into them, and now they try and go for a grab, and they caught Rascal with it. That's all they're going to get for it, though, just the Brigitte. Rascal already used Rally.
And he almost makes a really nice play. He actually bashes Saya player and then whip shots him back towards his teammates, but because that grab came down, he gets taken out, and they're not able to make a play around it.
Very clever from Florida, actually, realizing they wanted to disengage. Or maybe they didn't want to hang around on the high ground anymore, but it threw the Shock off. They thought that the Mayhem were going to run straight into them. Then the Shock split themselves. Here's another EMP. Super Tree hoping Rascal all caught by that one. Sinatra has a grab, though. Shatter here from Fate. He's trying to end this fight. Super had one of his own. He knocked Byram and Chris to the ground, and now the Graviton Surge is going to follow up here. Sinatra sitting in the back, just plugging damage in there. Fate still stays alive, though, and even with the Immortality field, the Shock might not have enough durability to get them through to the other side. It's just Rascal on the payload. And the Mayhem, once again, looks like they can finish the map here, but not with much time. The Shock are trying to put him in overtime, but Violet will be pushed off. And that's the face of a team that knows they've still got a lot of work to do. Both teams are able to finish the map here, but once more, it is the Florida Mayhem in a huge time bank deficit. Long way behind the 8 ball. They need to make it up with a strong defense here as we head into extra innings in just a moment. Florida Mayhem still searching for their second victory here in the Overwatch League, and at least in this season, and I think it's a little ways off still. Shock. Do not seem inclined to allow them to take one here.
I think the frustrating thing about Florida is like they have moments, they have spurts where they're able to put it together, and then there's some other moments that just kind of look poor. BQB stand out for me there. 33 enemies, 20 of them EMPs, getting an EMP every minute. That's exactly what you want to see out of your Sombra.
Yeah, it's almost like BQB is firing on all cylinders right now. Fire player trying to fire on all of the shock. So he will need a little bit of space to work here. The shock are inhabiting the high ground, and look at this rotation. You see it coming. I knew there was a wrecking ball here. So they push back. The shock know that they're a little bit weak to this composition. They already fell to it beforehand. They're doing a good job of meeting them though and trying to take space away from them. But Zephyr now turning up here on the far right could cause some problems. Look at them all grouped inside this small room. BQB a little bit low. Choikobin is going to use a lot of his defense matrix here. There are a lot of projectiles that are going to come raining in. That's nice by Fate. He actually got himself behind Choikobin, able to get onto Violet.
And they've consistently broken the Shock's defense. When the Shock come out with the Reinhardt, they're able to break it with the damage dealers. It is just the fights and scenarios where the Florida Mayhem are forced to play 3-3 that it does not work out for them. Saya play with the headshots to finish things off. He's got an infra sight. No time in the bank here for Florida, so you're going to be playing in overtime for the rest of this.
And the Shock likely will try and take the fight at the earliest possible opportunity. The issue, though, with that...
I don't have any ults.
Yeah, based on Florida's composition, they actually weren't even able to get to grips with them. Like, they weren't able to get damage, so they weren't able to farm ultimates. Moth. I like that. Using the pile driver there just to display super shield and give Sire players some small openings, but he's the kind of Widowmaker that can find those shots.
Yeah, you also build up towards Minefield with that big pile driver as well, with the damage you put down if you're Fate, so...
Rascal. Keep that shield up. He has that barrage here. Super Edge's gonna eat it straight away. 1-for-1 trade, though, is not what you're looking for with a barrage. You need more than that now. Well, these teams are both now down to 4 players. Fate, though, a lot of extra durability, but Byram being felled here. EMP from BQB has to salvage his situation, but Sinatra, he's very charged up. He's found BQB and now looking for his next victim. Fate a little bit low, and here's the sound barrier. Here's where the Shock start to push them off. And Fate had no choice. He was low.
And you're forced to use ults there if you're Florida. I mean, you know it's in overtime. Can't get off the cart, they have to use the EMP.
Yes, I hear you, Mayhem front row. It is winnable. It's going to be rough, though.
It's going to be tough. So you do get point 8, you do push the cart, about to the bus, so you open up some area. So Mitch now kind of chatting with the Mayhem fan in the front row, back and forth.
Hey, the homie's down.
Until you get your tickets, anything can happen.
So I'll even interact with you unironically.
So, Fate has had a good nap. I think when Fate is not forced into the, when Fate's not forced into the mirror and into the Reinhardt battle, he's been having a good game. It's just, you're going to, it's like you always go back to it, right? You can play damage on the offense, you can play it. At certain points in certain maps, eventually you need to pull out Reinhardt. You need to be able to play this. And this is where the Mayhem struggle the most.
Trying to beat the Shock. No one's been able to really handle the Shock with a mirror composition outside of perhaps Vancouver Titans, and saw how that all went down. Wasn't quite enough. Now we're seeing a little bit more of a trend towards Sombra in general, but the Mayhem, I don't blame them for wanting to keep the D.Va around, especially with how dangerous Sinatra's been.
Mayhem have been effective with Sombra in damage dealers on offense. It's really just been when they have to play this. And even though you want the diva in place, like it looks like, you know, Zephyr, when he's able to put down damage on Pharah, you know, you get a BQB in position on Sombra, side player on the Widow. It's very effective. You can't do it on D though. I mean, it'd be very difficult.
All right, Discord Orb on Super and Fate. Both of them decide to take a sidebar. Byram has to play out of line of sight right now, but he actually is still within Violet. So Violet, while being safe, he respects that Byram could pick him off in the same way that he's trying to get hit. Oh, Side just took a big chunk. That's nasty. Violet in a good position. Super getting healed up now, and Troikobin's just going to soak up some damage for him. I think Fate really wanted to hit that charge, and now that he doesn't, they kind of put him in a bit of a compromising situation. Super steamrolls him. BQB forced to shield himself hastily. Yeah, Chief, that is not it.
Look, you can trade damage on bubbles to try and, like, you know, they want to get their own Zarya charged up and whatnot, but like, you can't let Sinatra just come in, throw a bubble on Super, get a bubble on himself, and then you think you're going to win the fight with him at 100 charge. I mean, he is too good of a Zarya to just give that energy up for like no effort as well. I mean, they're shooting right through them.
Yeah. And the Shock don't have white noise going into their noise-canceling headsets. They just have like Flight of the Valkyries at full volume, and they just run at their opponents when they've got those bubbles out.
You have to be careful they don't get like grabbed off the point here. You can like grab the side of the boss, keep it a little bit further away.
Drop it in behind. Snarch could get cute with it. Well, I feel like he'd probably just try and get an optimal grab. Discord on Fate right now, though. He gets healed up with their Transcendence. Look at the Shock, they don't care. They're going to go for the grab now. The grab will last a little bit longer than the Transcendence, so the burst damage is going to be there. Violet just turns up looking stylish. And he's giving that extra Transcendence healing. BQB, that is a late and very sad grab. The Florida Mayhem unable to do it. And the San Francisco Shock will secure that third night win. Sinatra with the grab that broke the camel's back. And now the Shock here just look to try and make a clean 4-0. Golden stage, not a possibility for the Shock this time around, but they want to keep that sheet as clean as possible. See you in just a moment for map number 4.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, now connecting 99% of Overwatch League fans. Catch your league on America's network, T-Mobile.
Into the iris. Огонь по готовности. Pass into the iris.
And with that victory, or at least that 3-0 so far in this series, the Shock have set themselves up now for another shot at the stage playoffs, and there's definitely something to hang their hat on. I believe that Super said to Shawfor, he said, who are you? You don't have a stage win, and then he called him trash. So clearly having a stage win is pretty important for the Shock, and they'd love another one.
Maybe they're gonna go, I was just going to say, you want to go back-to-back, you can.
I mean,
right?
you'd want to, especially if it gives you a chance. It also gives you a chance to play off against your New Yorks, against your Vancouvers, your Londons, to set yourself up and get an idea of what you may be heading towards in the later stages of the season. Because those games, if you lose in stage playoffs, it doesn't count against your win-loss record in the series itself. Although obviously you want to win. It's a great way to get to play some teams that you might not otherwise be scheduled to play against. There's going to be a sub though.
Yes, we got a sub for the Florida Mayhem. So Hagapun back in. I think Byram just comes in because he can play some damage dealers there. They wanted his Tracer in play. As now you bring Hagupin back in, who can play the Ana or Zenyatta.
You mix up here. Don't know how much is really going to change things. I'll be honest with you now. I mean, we saw Byram actually, open up really well on Numbani, getting that first pick on defense. Hagupin, you said it, he looked good.
And I think with Florida, like I mentioned, they have some bright spots, they have some moments, but I don't think you'll be able to truly judge this team till probably stage 4, once they have all their new pieces in the lineup and whatnot. I mean, the sad part is stage 4, it's too late.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no stage 4 playoff.
Well, yeah.
You're out of contention of getting into the top 12. So
I spoke to Bare Hands about this today. I said, look, I mean,
you've been running into everybody in the hallway.
Yeah, no, I'm hanging out with people.
Seeing everybody.
I'm social. I'm getting my pocket on. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to talk to everybody, schmooze a bit. But talking to Bare Hands, he said, look, we're thinking about next year now. We can't really get into that top 12. It's no point stressing ourselves out about getting there. It's about acclimatizing our new players and go for a big 2020.
It's kind of what the Shock decided to do last year, right? They knew there wasn't a great chance of themselves making the overall playoff. You were building for the future. You had players who can play early on. It's a little bit of a different route, right? You don't win any games, then you bring in a bunch of new players, then you start to build for the future. But I think,
the problem is, Matt, the Florida Mayhem have had 2 very average seasons.
I think so. But I think last year, obviously, a completely different roster. This year, I know some of their original moves didn't pan out like they originally had expected.
Well, it's probably an upgrade, but everyone else is also getting better.
I think that's probably part of the problem as well, is that I think Florida's actually probably improved quite a lot from the beginning of the year. It's just that everybody else has gotten so good.
Hard to get good perspective on that when the rest of the league is, also just challenging each other to improve. Shock been pushing now on the offense here. Super should be fine where he's standing. He's got Rascal in front. Yeah, there it is. Sire player extends deep to try and find that kill on Super and gets taken down. Then Super gets healed up and hits fate with a Fire Strike. I don't think BKB can do a whole lot here to save things. And Zephyr's very low, so the Mayhem, they try and fight early. Doesn't work out, but they should have one more chance.
No, but they end up kind of flipping sides there, where the Shock take like a defensive position and Florida rotates all the way around to the offensive side. Where, you kind of like that defensive positioning there from the Shock, right? Being around that corner, being able to play cart.
Well,
like, eventually, they have to play up into that open space because otherwise you just move the cart.
Super just played his health pool really well. He disengaged personally. That caused Sire player to chase too deep and get picked off by Choi. Rascal was also looking after him. Shatters everywhere, but it's going to be Chris and Sire player getting knocked down by it. Hagupin, Transcendence timing is admirable, but burst damage coming out from that self-destruct. You can't save your team with healing, and now that ultimate's been thrown in the bin. Fate just shattered a shield.
Teamwork is a huge part of it for the main tanks as well, as when Florida gets first pick in the previous fight, so we're going back to that first fight.
Right.
Fate starts to push up, and he's quite low, and he expects the healing to come, and it doesn't come. And he ends up falling, things spiral out for Florida at that position where Super knows that his teammates have his back. He knows he can play that aggro.
He knows when he needs to play passively, like he did in that first fight, when he played safe. Has an understanding of what the capacity of his healers is to keep him up. Nicely done by Fate there, getting rid of Rascal with the charge. That Graviton Surge was a thing. And Sound Barrier now for the Florida Mayhem. Looking very good in this fight, actually. Great opening pick by Fate. Sound Barrier timing was excellent. Unfortunately, doesn't make up for that previous fight where they got very unfortunate with the double shatter. But Florida Mayhem now can set up and ease into this a little bit more. There's no grab available for the Shock. They sort of threw that one away.
And I think coming in as a new main tank, like we saw Trill the other day for the Dallas Fuel.
My boy!
It's just very hard.
Oh, yeah.
Especially at the Overwatch League level, the amount of pressure that the main tanks are under, and then playing with a new lineup as Self-Destruct comes in here.
Well, here you go.
Doesn't get anything.
I talked to him too. I'm so social lady. He said, like, mate, this is like 1,000 times harder than contenders. Like,
it's the speed of the game.
Yeah.
The game's just way faster. Hagupin gets forced down from the high ground there by Choyomin, comes in, knocked down. Violet picks that up. Hagupin has Transcendence, don't have that for this fight. So this will just be free cart push here for the Shock.
It's nice. Very good second stage. Sort of clamp down here for the Shock in this fight, and Florida Mayhem are going to get pushed all the way back. Looked like they were starting to stabilize a little bit, and the Shock were going into a fight without a Graviton Surge, and yet still find a way to prevail, and that payload is now out of the gates on towards the final stretch of the map with 4 minutes 30 on the clock. Yeah, that's a lot of ticks about to come up.
Yes, right now, I mean, you're seeing a big difference in terms of damage between Zephyr and Choyobin. Like, the teams in general, about 5k damage up for the Shock. And right now, I mean, Choyobin is more than doubling the damage of Zephyr right now.
Interesting, Choyobin doesn't go for a self-destruct to follow up the Earth Shatter there. He would have found some picks there as well. He goes for it later, he gets it anyway. The grab is what's comboed with the self-destruct. Normally we often see that being used sort of defensively, but I don't think the Shock really mind too much here. They're just trying to get the map done. Try and play aggressive, throw a lot of those ultimates, or try and use their offensive edge more so.
Zephyr just gets out and gets DX here. Sinatra barely kept alive here.
The Transcendence,
Yep, Transcendence in play. Moth with sound barrier as well, so you're going to be able to withstand the rally that comes down from Saya Player.
That's a shatter, yeah. Saya Player knocked down. BQB in trouble. Zephyr can't protect against this damage from Sinatra. Nothing he can do with the defense matrix. Sound barrier on Mini Diva. Sounds good. In practice, though, not great.
So that'll be the Shock completing the map with time in the bank. They keep on those support ults towards the end. Saya Player uses Rally. Transcendence comes in from Violet, but Moth with that big sound barrier at the end, not going to be able to get through all that shielding. At 3 minutes and 21 in the bank there for the Shock. Really fast time. Is like I mentioned, the damage output for these two teams, Mitch, it's kind of crazy. So the Shock have 1,000 less healing than the Florida Mayhem. The issue is in terms of damage, the Shock have almost, like, we're almost approaching like 10,000 more damage than the Florida Mayhem. Florida is sitting at 15k, the Shock at 24,000. As you know, in terms of your divas, like I mentioned, Zephyr at 1,400 damage, Choyobin at 3,400. Like, big difference there. Sinatra at over 1,000. Just really a ton of damage. I mean, double the damage Super pretty much putting out as compared to Fate. So it's just the speed that the Shock are playing with. They have, it's not more healing, right? You're actually getting more healing from Florida. It's just the ability to use those support ults at perfect times. The Shock are such a talented team.
Dialed in right now, you saw that. Super taking some time there to joke with Choyobin, who was sitting on his right, or our left, as we see him on the screen.
But, this would be their third 4-0 in a row, right?
Yeah, talk about a salty run back, huh?
Sometimes you just need like you don't want to say like a bad loss, because at the time it is a bad loss to the Outlaws, but then you don't realize the Outlaws turned it around, one of the better teams this stage. Sometimes you just need like a wake-up call like that, especially like, so you win stage 2, you have a long break.
That was a wake-up call, but the Outlaws snoozed their alarms for about 5 weeks, let's be honest.
Follow the Shock Boys on social media. They're hanging out in the pool, dude. They're having a good time, right? During the All-Star break, you come in, you lose that match to the Outlaws. It's a big wake-up call.
They did look a bit rusty at the start of this stage, in all fairness. The team said they hadn't really, I don't know if they've been practicing as much either. Which you got to do.
I think with players going home over the break, it's kind of hard to practice as well. Not as much practice coming in.
Notice the Shock haven't committed too deeply to this fight at all. They're happy to trade for the time being. Probably until this payload gets to this corner. That's when they'll, that's when they'll be able to engage. It's the closest distance between cover and the payload.
Now they'll go.
Yeah.
I mean, you get that early pick on the BQB. Now Sinatra can go up, farm some Graviton Surge. As you want to allow them to kind of get through that tunnel, get to that corner, you play in the choke. You have the advantage of the larger HP pool of the Diva. The downside is playing in that small area when the EMP comes. It's impossible to avoid it. So now maybe you get Violet, like you can get him over by server room. As Sinatra on the high ground can just throw down these alternate fires. The AoE, get even closer to grab.
Sneaky beats. Tranquility. For some damage, just see that EMP ready here. The Mayhem have already used the Transcendence, so they are going through ultimates. That EMP had to be online already, Matt.
But what are you trying to do? Like, when you use your own Transcendence, they back up. It's not like Super's low, and you're using like Transcendence or Rally to force an ultimate out from the Shock.
Well, there was no forcing.
Yeah, well, they use Transcendence, they push, and then all they do is just wait, and then they grab and then win the fight. They don't invest anything else. I mean, so you're not really, I mean, you're trading 1 for 1, but not ideal. I mean, look, they're going to have all 3 support ultimates. If this EMP doesn't hit all 3 supports, which there's a ton of area to hide here, they come in with a support ult, and they're able to sustain through this. You're not close to Sound Barrier for Florida. You're not close to Transcendence. You just use them.
BQB, where does he set up here to try and make sure he hits all the supports? He sees Rascal and Violet on Tiger. He can't do it. Moth is right at the back of the arena.
And Violet got his Transcendence off anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And you got Rally out here as well for Rascal, so you get both of those ultimates. Now,
I mean, this is why you want to fight here is the shock, though, Matt. You can spread out so much. I mean, that EMP cannot, you can't guarantee an EMP to win the fight.
The EMP only connects to 2 players.
Yep. Well, in all fairness, he did use an EMP where some were back around the health pack on his left side, somewhere maybe in server room, and behind him up on the high ground was Moth. Moth knew that he had to play back. Moth knew he could join his team within like half a second if he speed boosted and jumped down there, but he also knew he'd stay safe from EMP.
So here's what Florida needs to do to get an advantage in this fight. Zephyr opens things up with Grab. The Grab will force them to Sound Barrier. They do not have a Grab, maybe they try and counter Shatter out of it, or D.Va self-destruct as a defensive. Your best chance is to Grab. If they use Sound Barrier, great. You come back. Chris had Sound Barrier, but he is now dead. So now, but this gives them more time to charge ults. Like you cannot have.
Why? They go for the grab, they commit?
They almost have to.
Truth, Strangeness, and Fiction, it's looking like it's working out. They got Moth and Rascal. Violet has the Transcendence here, though. Payload on the move. But look at the shock. Play it safe. Why would we just feed? Spread out. They are very much aware of the fact they want to stop the payload here. They need to wait for a couple more players. They're almost at full 6. They are now. Moth's just rejoined them. So it's go time. And the Mayhem, you've got to go. You have to go forward here. But what do you have? They're waiting for an EMP, arguably, from BQB, but they might not have time now. Shatter from Super, though. Well, glances off the shield. It's going to be the Transcendence from Violet now, and the Shock are going to push in. Looks like they're trying to draw out a Transcendence from the Mayhem so they can get a big Graviton surge. That's the Transcendence they were looking for. Sound Barrier got used first for the Shock. Rally also now there. Sinatra, well, Graf went in, didn't find much. The Shock now are out of ultimates. They're going to have to win the fight the old-fashioned way, but same can be said for the Florida Mayhem. Super is low, though. BQB is eventually able to burn him down with Rascal missing. Florida Mayhem have a 1-player advantage going into the next stage of the fight. Zaya played out. Trek open. Has he done it again? He might have bailed them out. He's got rid of Chris, and now Zephyr going down to Sinatra. The Florida Mayhem are pushed off the payload. Just when it looked good for them, they open the fight. No ultimates for either team. They have a 2-player advantage, and still, it is squandered. Still, Sinatra and Trek Open together are able to salvage the situation. And the San Francisco Shock are very good at Houdiniing their way out of those rough scenarios.
Yes, that's going to be their 3rd consecutive 4-0 win in terms of map count. Now, Florida, they had some advantages, just not able to take those team fight. Those scenarios where they have an advantage in terms of ultimates, in terms of players alive, and convert them into team fight wins. And against a team like the Shock, if you're not able to take advantage of every opportunity you have, you're gonna lose.
Well, we're gonna head down to the stage for an interview with Emily and Moth.
Thanks, guys. I'm down here joined by Moth. Congrats again to you and the San Francisco Shock on a win tonight, as expected. Now, I really want to talk about Stage 3. We've seen a lot of other teams play Sombra, but we haven't seen a whole lot of her from the Shock. So what's the reason behind that? You guys just don't need her? It's just a preference? Talk to us.
Yeah, we're still really confident in our 3-3. I feel like if we play it right, we can take any comp on, so we don't really feel like we need to adapt to Sombra right now or play it ourselves.
All right, and Florida played a really unique composition in Nepal where we saw 5 DPS heroes. So how did you guys react and adapt when you saw that?
Yeah, that was a tough one, something we'd never seen before, but we went back to spawn for a bit and thought it over and changed our comp, and it worked out.
Very good. Well, congrats again, and best of luck to you and the Shock for the remainder of the stage. That's all I have for you guys. Mitch and Matt, back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Emily. Yeah, the little tweak, of course, putting the Roadhog in the composition and trying to deal with those 5 DPSs. I mean,
probably we're not expecting the Fate May today.
Just play Diamond Matchmaking and you'll learn how to counter that. Or just lose a bunch of SR.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually what happens. You usually just lose, everybody panics. The Shock did not panic. Like Moss said, they went back to the spawn and made the right adjustments.
Yeah, they could be happy with that one now as well. They run back, well, 3 perfect games in a row since losing to the Outlaws. Here's the standings as they stand for stage 3. And yeah, the Shock chilling. Past 12 map differential. The one in the L column is going to annoy them a little bit, but still, they are going to be sitting pretty at the top of all those teams with 1 loss.
And that week 1, they have Atlanta Reign 3-2, and they have the Outlaws where they lose in game 5. I mean, if you see the last few games, Shock, in those first 2 games, I mean, they could be sitting even above Vancouver right now.
And they've secured their spot in the stage 3 playoffs, essentially. We'll see how other teams perform, but they're looking very confident there. Let's, I think we need to have a look at our player of the match, brought to you by Omen by HP. And this one here for me, Choikobin, I think I've given it to him once before. Different reasons today. He wasn't out there eating grabs, but a lot of his single kill self-destructs were very impactful. This one here was 2. He just was able to win fights. He was able to salvage losing situations or short-handed team fights with these self.
When they're talking at halftime about the MVP of the Shock, I think you have to look at Choi and you have to look at Moth on top of, obviously, you know, Violet, Sinatra, Super. You know, their positioning is always so good. Like their ult usage, like Choi keeps so many fights going for the Shock, like just juggling the point back and forth with whether it's Sinatra,
testing,
Super,
healing, diving.
I mean, only 10 deaths on the Diva, 97 limbs, so good kill contribution. You know, the 33 final blows, so actually finishing players off. I mean, just a very good overall game for Choyo.
Yeah, 9 self-destruct kills is big, because you know, we do see a lot of teams that are able to avoid getting taken down by those pretty comfortably. Very well deserving for our player of the match. But coming up next, 2 old rivals kind of come back to the stage and go back head-to-head. The Shanghai Dragons going to be taking on the Los Angeles Gladiators. A very good match.
It's gonna be a great
Definitely one you want to see. We need to see how these 2 teams square up now heading in towards our playoffs. Don't miss that one. We'll be back after these messages.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Toyota, official North American partner of the Overwatch League. Toyota, let's go places.
Hey man, what's up?
You need anything for today?
Nah man, I think I'm set.
Big day today, man?
Yeah, huge. Let's play some Overwatch.